Namo tassa bhagavato arahat samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahat samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahat samma sambuddhassa. අද ඔය පිළිබඳව හරි මොනවා හරි අහන්න ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් ඕන මාතෘකාවක්
ඕනනම් ගමෙන් වගේ දිවසේ ඉන්න අයට ඊළඟට ඉතින් මෙහෙම එක ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේලා අනුශාසනා කරපු කියනවා. එතකොට මොකද කියනවා දිශාව අනුව මෛත්‍රී කරලා. එතකොට මම දීර්ඝ කාලයක් වෙන කරලා මට ඒක ටික distract වෙනවා. මනස යනවා. ඒ නිසා මම පුරුදුනා සමග සියලු සත්‍යෝ කියන ඉස්සෙල්ලා මට මෛත්‍රී කරගෙන ඊළඟට සියලු සත්‍ය කියලා මෛත්‍රී කරනවා. ඒක මට හරිය හොඳයි ඒක මනස මට ඒකෙම තියාගන්න ඕනේ. අද හැබැයි විදර්ශනාවට යන හැටි ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ මම එච්චර දැනගෙන හිටියේ නෑ. නමුත් අද මම මේ ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේගෙන් ඒක ඉගෙන ගත්තා ඒ විදර්ශනාවට යන හැටි. අර මයින්ඩ් එක ඩිස්ට්‍රැක්ට් වෙනකොට කොහොමද අපහු අපි ගන්නෙ? දැන් ඩිස්ට්‍රැක්ට් වුණාම එහෙම හිතන්නේ නැතුව අපි එකපාරට අපහු භාවනාවට එනවා. එතකොට ගොඩක් වෙලා ඩිස්ට්‍රැක්ට් වුණොත් අපි කලකිරීමක් ඇති වෙනවා. We feel bad. If you get distracted. So today, listening to your the bhavana, what you told us about the bhavana, I gathered that. So that's a great thing. But I want to know you told us about loving kindness. Yeah. I suppose, can you please explain what that and the way that we have been used to? Yes. Like Mama Nidu express, starting from me. How this used to connect. I know to say loving and kindness. Maitri, loving and kindness.
Yes. Maitri. Loving kindness. Welcome. So it's the same. It's very similar. So the thing is, the reason why we do not go to the directions, the dishva, each direction. So it's that this is a way that it's being taught right now in a lot of Buddhist circles, and it's good, but it puts a lot of emphasis on repeating words in the mind.
Yes.
And the problem with that is sometimes the words become more important than the feeling. So that's why we actually put that aside. Yes, we actually really want to cultivate the feeling of loving kindness, and later on in our practice in, for example, on the 10-day retreat that is coming next week, we actually, after a few days, we give people instructions. Okay, now you can do the directions, because their feeling is strong enough. It has become, we know that they won't get lost in the words, in the minds. So we give instructions on doing each direction. It's not a big problem. If you would like to do the directions, you can. Yes.
When I do that,
Yes.
I get more, distracted.
Yes.
I feel more
Yes.
first
Yes.
to me,
Yes.
and then to the whole world.
Yes.
All beings.
Yes.
All beings in this world.
Yes.
From your world.
Yes.
Universe.
Universe. Yes.
All beings in the universe.
Yes.
That was there only I could keep my mind in one place without getting this.
Yes.
So today you heard another way.
Yes. So what I usually say is that whenever you have the feeling of loving kindness in your heart, for example, it's already radiant. It's already bright everywhere, because it's the nature of loving kindness. It's like that. It's the nature of loving kindness to be bright, to shine like this. So what I understand when in the suttas, the Buddha says, one shares that loving kindness in all directions. I think this was also meant as just allowing the loving kindness to be radiant everywhere. And when we do that, it becomes very simple. Because when we start thinking of all the living beings, all the planets, all the galaxies, then some people actually, it becomes more like a visualizing practice. Actually, what is very important is the feeling of Maitri. So that's the most important. And that's why we put a lot of emphasis just on the feeling, and we try to keep it very, very, very simple. Things that touch you directly, like a happy memory that will help you feel it, and then staying with that. So that's in the other method, it is also possible, but we find that because there's so much repeating things, the mind becomes distracted easily. So we keep it simple. Very good.
තියෙන දේවල් වැඩි වෙනවා. අපිට එක තැනකම සබා ගැනීම මම හිතන්නේ නිවිගේ හරි සරලයි.
වෙලා තියෙන මෛත්‍රී භාවනා කරනකොට සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ආධුනික පුංචි කාලේ ළමයින්ටත් අපි කියනවානේ මෛත්‍රී කරන්න කොහොමද කියන එක. ඒකේ කරන විදිය තියෙනවා, ආනිසංස මොනවාද, කරන්නේ කොහොමද, කාටද කරන්නේ. ඔකේ ආකාර දෙකක් තියෙනවා. මහග්ගත ඒ කියන්නේ මේ සම්පූර්ණ මේ මුළු දැන් අපි කිව්වේ ලෝක සත්‍යයටම භාවනා මෙත් වඩනකොට ඒ විදිහට කරන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් කිව්වා මට පහසුවක් දැනුණායි කියලා හමුදුරෝ කරපු විදිහෙන්. හේතුව තමයි අපි ආනාපාන සතිය කරනකොට මේ අපිට උනත් පොඩි කාලේ උගන්වනකොට භාවනා කරනකොට ටික වෙලාවක් හුස්ම ගන්න පිට කරන එකෙන් ගොඩක්ම මේ හිත වෙනතකට යොමු වෙන හේතුව තමයි අපි ඒ දේවල් වලට තියෙන අවධානය අපිට එක සැරේම මේ කරගන්න බැරි පුරුද්දක් අපේ හිතේ නැතිකමක් තියෙන්නේ. හේතුව තමයි දැන් මම එකපාරටම ගිහිල්ලා වාඩි වෙලා මට මෛත්‍රී කරනවා, ඊට පස්සේ අම්මට තාත්තට, ඊට පස්සේ නෑදෑයන්ට, සහෝදර සහෝදරයන්ට ඔය විදිහට එක කොහොම ගිහිල්ලා දිශාවන් එක කරද්දී අපි හිතනවා අර හරියට නිකන් chart එකක් ඇඳලා ඒ chart එකට අපි කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා හිතුවට මගක් යනකොට අපිට ඒක කරන්න බෑ. හේතුව තමයි අපිට මේ ඒ විදිහේ පුරුද්දක් හිතේ හරියට අපි කියමු රිද්ම් එකක් හරි රිද්මයක් අපේ නැතිකම. ඒකට තමයි කියන්නේ ආනාපාන සතිය පුරුදු කරන්න කියලා. අපි කියන්නේ මේ ඒක මූලිකවම දේ. කරනකොට අර බිග්ිනර්ස්ලට මූලිකම දේ තමයි කවුන්ට් කර ගණන් කරලා 1 2 ඒකෙන් හොඳකම තියෙන එකේ ඉඳලා 10ට විතරක් ගණන් කරලා හුස්ම ඉහළ පහළ ගන්න එක ඒක සරල දෙයක්වත් නෙමෙයි. අපි කියන පුංචි ළමයින්ට එකේ ඉඳලා 10ට වෙනකන් කරන්නයි කියලා. ඒක නෙමෙයි වැදගත් දේ. අපිටත් අපි කරන්නත් ඕනේ. හුස්මක් හරින පිට කරලා අපි කෙනෙක්ට කියන්න පුළුවන් ඕක හරි මහ ලොකු දෙයක්ද කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් බලන කෙනෙක්ට සාපෝ 10 ඉඳලා ආපෝ 1ට ගණන් කරනකොට අපි යොමු කරන්න ඕනේ අපේ හුස්ම රැල්ලත් එක්ක කොහෙද අපේ මේ තියෙන්නේ කියන එක. ඊට පස්සේ කවුන්ට් ගානත් අපි ඒත් එක්කම අපි හිත යොමු කරන්න ඕනේ. ඔහොම කළා දැන් කොච්චර වාරයක්ද මමත් දැන් දවසක් ඇහුවා දැන් මම ඔහොම එකේ ඉඳලා 10ට 10 ඉඳලා ආපෝ 1ට එකේ ඉඳලා 10ට ඔහොම 10 සැරේ 20 සැරේ පොඩ වැඩි කරනවා. දවසක් මම ඇහුවට පස්සේ කොච්චර වාරයක් ওই විදිහට කරන්න ඕනේද කියලා උදාහරණයක් තමයි මේ දවසක් ඔය යෝගා වචර කෙනෙක් ළමෙක් ඇවිල්ලා එයා ওই විදිහටම කරගෙන ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා තැනක ඒ කමටහන් දෙන හාමුදුරන් ඇහවලු මං කොච්චර මේ දැන් ඊට පස්සේ මගේ ස්ටෙප් එක මොකක්ද කියලා. ඒ කියන්නේ මම දැන් පුරුදුවේ මට 50 සැරයක් විතර කියන 10ට 10 ඉඳලා 1ට ওই විදිහට ගණන් කළා මට දැන් පුරුදුයි කියලා. ඊට පස්සේ කිව්වලු මම ඊට පස්සේ මොකක්ද වෙන්නේ කියලා ඇහවලු. ඊට පස්සේ කමටහන් මොකක් හරි දෙනවා නම් මොකද්ද දෙන අවවාදේ කියලා. නෑ තවත් මාස කිහිපයක් ඕකම කරලා එන්නේ කියලා කිව්වලු. හේතුව තමයි කරන්න අපි ඒක හිතුවට දැන් මම පුරුදු ඊළඟ ස්ටෙප් එක මොකද්ද කියලා අපිට කියන්න බෑ, තීරණය කරන්න බෑ. දැන් මම හිත මම ඒ තරමටම මේ හිත මේ සමාධිගත කරගෙන ඉන්නේ කියලා අපිට මේ මනස කියන්නේ ඕනෑම වෙලාවක වෙනස් වෙන්න පුළුවන් හරි ක්ෂණිකයෙන්. ඒක නතර වෙන්නෙම මේ මාර්ගඵල අවබෝධයකින් තමයි ඒක තීරණය වෙන්නේ. පංච අවිඥාශ සමාපatti ඕනතරම් උදාහරණ කතාවක් තියෙනවනේ. තවුසොන්ට එක එක අභිඥාලාභී තවුසන්ට වෙච්ච දේවල් ඒ අයගේ අත්දැකීම් එක්ක ක්ෂණයකින් Tamanට තියෙන අභිඥා හරි සමාපatti හරි සුළු මොහොතකින් මේ දේවල් සමහරකට යනකොට යන්නේ ටිකක් උඩින් යන්නේ ආපහු ගමන ගිහිල්ලා එනකොට යාට බිමින් බහැලා එන සිද්ධිය ඕන තරම් තියෙන. ඒ කියන්නේ මනස කියන දේ හරීම මේ අපිට විශ්වාස කරන්න බෑ මම ඉන්නේ මේ මට්ටම කියලා. ඉතින් අර හේතුව තමයි දිශා හරි ඒ විදිහට එක වෙනස් අපිට හිත යොමු කරන්න කලින් අපේ මානසික ස්වභාවය තියෙන්න ඕනේ මට කොච්චරනම් මේක පුරුද්දක් කරන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා. දැන් අපි විනාඩියකින් දෙකකින් මෛත්‍රී භාවනාව මම දුක් වෙනවා නිරෝගීව සුවපත් වෙනවා කියලා කෙටියෙන් වචන පේලි 5කින් 6කින් එක කියලා ඉවර කරොත් එහෙම ඒක ලේසි. ඊපස්සේ අර එකින් එක කරන්න ගියාට පස්සේ තමයි ඒකේ ගැඹුරක් අපිට තේරෙන්නේ. මම මේ දිශාවේ ඉන්න සියලුම සත්‍යෝ, දකුණු දිශාවේ ඉන්න සියලුම සත්‍යෝ, උඩ දිශාවේ ඉන්න සියලුම සත්‍යෝ ඔහොම කී කරන්න ගියාට පස්සේ ඒක අපිට හොඳ හොරුවක් තියෙනවා අර විදිහට ආනාපානසතිය පුරුදු කරලා තියෙනවා නම් ඒක හරි වැදගත් දෙයක්. හොඳයි ඒක අහපු එක. You can ask. Yeah.
No, I'm just glad I knew this wasn't there. Good.
මෛත්‍රී භාවනා කරන හැටි දන්නවනේ අපි හැමෝම කොහොමද කරන්නේ කිය ආනිසංස මොනවාද ඕන තරම් ඔක අහලා තියෙනවා. දවසක් ඔය මෛත්‍රී භාවනාවේ මේ අත්දැකීම් ගැන කතා කරන් පස්සේ ආනන්ද මෛත්‍රී ආනායකහම් ලංකාවේ හිටපු මේ ධර්මදර හරි උගත් වික්ෂුන් වහන්සේ නමක් දවසක් හාමුදුරුවෝ ගැන මේ ස්වයං ලිඛිත චරිතාපදානයක් තියෙනවා. හාමුදුරුවෝ විසින්ම ලියපු චරිතාපදානයක්. සහ මේක මේ ගොඩාක් හාමුදුරුවෝ වයෝවෘද්ධ හාමුදුරුවෝ කීප නමක්ම කියලා තියෙන කාරණාවක්. ඉතින් අදටත් ඇමරිකාවේ ඉන්න බන්තේ ජී කියලා හරි ප්‍රසිද්ධයි. කියන්නේ බන්තේ ජී කියෝ මුළු ඇමරිකාවෙම ගොඩක් ප්‍රසිද්ධ ගුණරත්න හාමුදුරුවෝ කියලා. හාමුදුරුවෝ අවුරුදු බන්තේ ජී හරි කෙටියෙන් කියන්නේ හාමුදුරන්ට ඒ හාමුදුරුවොත් නිතරම කියන කතාවක්. දවසක ආනන්ද මෛත්‍රී මහානායක හඳුරගෙන එහෙම පස්සේ මෙච්චර අවුරුද්දෙන් 100 හඳුර 100 කීපයක්ම වැඩි හිටියානේ. 90 ගානක් විතර වැඩි ඉන්නට හඳුරගෙන් අහනවා දවසක් දායකයෙක් ඇවිල්ලා වහන්සේ මොකක්ද හිතන්නේ මෙච්චර මේ ආයු 90 ගානක් වැඩි ඉන්න ආයු වින්දනය කරන්න මොකක්ද හේතුව කියලා හාමුදුරුවෝ හිතන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා. දැන් එක එක්කෙනාට හේතු කියන්න පුළුවන්. මම හොඳට මගේ සෞඛ්‍ය මම මේ හොඳ පුරුදු තියෙනවා. දවස් ගානේ මම ව්‍යායාම කරනවා, එක්සර්සයිස් කරනවා. තව මම කන බොන කෑම බීම සතිපතා මම බෙහෙත් ගන්නවා, ආහාර වේල එහෙම. හාමුදුරුවෝ කියපු දෙයක් තමයි මම කාරණා දෙකක් අදටත් විශ්වාස කරනවා කියලා. එකක් තමයි මම නිර්මාංශය කියන එකේ පෞද්ගලිකව මම පිළිගන්නවා. මේක හේතුවක් වෙන්නේ නැති කියලා. සහ හැමදාම මට මම පුරුදු වෙච්ච දවසේ ඉඳලා පුංචි කාලේ ඉඳලා මහණුණෙන් පස්සේ පැවිදුණෙන් පස්සේ කවදාකවත් මට මග ඇරුන්නේ නැහැ කියනවා මෛත්‍රී භාවනාව. මේ දෙක මට හිතෙන්න පුළුවන් පෙර සසරේ කර්ම ශක්තියෙන් තියෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. මොනවා කෙනෙක්ට හේතු කියන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් පුද්ගලිකව මම හිතනවා මේ දෙක මට හේතු උනායි කියලා හාමුදුරුවෝ කියනවා. දැන් තිගුණරතන හාමුදුරුවෝත් හරි හාමුදුරුවෝ දිනපතා මෛත්‍රී භාවනාව කරලා තිනවා. පියදස්සී හාමුදුරුවෝ වජිරාරාමයේ වැඩහු පියදස්සී හාමුදුරුවෝ සහ නාරද හාමුදුරුවෝ පුද්ගලිකව ඒ හාමුදුරුවෝ ආශ්‍රය කරපු අය කියනවා නිතරම මේ මෛත්‍රී භාවනාව ප්‍රගුණ කරපු හාමුදුරුවෝ හැටියට. ඉතින් වයෝවෘද්ධ වෙන්න වැඩි ආයුෂ ලබන්න. ඉතින් මෙතානිසංස සූත්‍රෙත් ඒකම තියෙනවානේ මනස පිරිසුදු කරන එක දීර්ඝායුෂ වඩන්න ආනිසංස හැටියටත් ඒ කියන්නේ මෙලවදීම ලබන්න පුළුවන් ආනිසංස හැටියට. Yes.
One of the qualities of metta, benefits of metta is that the mind quickly with itself. Only he says that only about metta.
මෙලවදීම ලැබෙන විපාක 11ක් තියෙනවා. 11 of benefit in our life. Yeah. සුඛං සුපති සුඛං පටිපුජ්ජති න පාපකං සුපිනම් පස්සති මනුස්සානම් පියෝ හෝති අමනුස්සානම් පියෝ හෝති දේවතා රක්ඛන්ති නාසාග්ගිවා විසංවා සත්තංවා තෝටං චිත්තං සමාධියති මුඛවන්නෝ විප්පසීදති අසමුල්ලෝ කාලං කරෝති උප්පරින් අපරිවිජ්ජන්තෝ බ්‍රහ්ම ලෝකෝ පගෝ හෝති. මෙලවදී ලැබෙන විපාකත් ඊට පස්සේ හරි අනාගාමී මාර්ගඵලත්වයටපත් වෙන්න බැරි වුණොත් මේක කියන්නේ මේ නිකන් මම නිදුක් වේවා නිරෝගී වේවා වචන දෙකට කියපු ඒ ගමම්ම එහෙම ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක ප්‍රගුණ කරපු තැනැත්තෙක්ට ලබන්න පුළුවන් ආනිසංස හැටියට. කියනෝනේ උදේ පාන්දර සමහරකට කෙනෙක්ට නැගිට ගන්න අමාරුයි. සමහරකට නැගිට්ටත් නිදා ගන්න ගියාම හරි අපහසු දේවල් තියෙනවා. නිදාගත්තත් පාන්දර මහා පාන්දර හැරෙනවා. නරක හීන පේනවා. හීන දැකලාම නැගිටිනවා. මේවා මේ අත්දැකීමෙන් ගොඩක් අය කියන දේවල්. ඊළඟට මුකවන්නෝ විප්පසීදති මිනිසෙක්ට ප්‍රියමනාප දකින්න කෙනෙක් තවත් කෙනෙකුගේ හිත පැහැදෙන විදිහේ ඕනම කෙනෙක්ට ඇති වෙන ප්‍රියමනාප වෙන්න පුළුවන් ස්වરૂපයක් ඇති වෙන්න. මනුස්සානම් පියෝ හොති මිනිසුන්ටත් හරි ප්‍රියමනාපයි. ඒ විතරක් නෙමෙයි අපි නොදකින අය ඉන්නවා, අදෘශ්‍යමාන අය ඉන්නවා මේ ලෝකේ. අපි ඇසට පියවි ඇසට පේන්නේ නැති අයට. ඒ අයටත් අපිව ප්‍රියමනාප වෙනවා. මොකවන්නෝ විපසිත අසම්මුලෝ කාලං තෝටං චිත්තං සමාධියති. අපේ හිත කෙනෙක් කියනවා මට හරියට එක වැඩක් පිළිවෙලට කරගන්න බෑ කියලා. එක දිගට ඒ කියන්නේ පැයක් විතර මගේ හිත යොමු කරගෙන මට මේ වැඩේ මේ විදිහට කරගෙන යන්න බෑ කියලා සමහරව කියනවා. ආනිසංස හැටියට කියනවා එක වැඩක් හරියට එක දිගට කරගෙන යන්න පුළුවන් ආනිසංසයක් හැටියට. මොකවන්නෝ විපසිත අසම්මුල්ලෝ කාලං කරෝති. ගොඩක් අය කියන නොමුලාව කලෝරිය කරන. ඒ කියන්නේ සිහි විකල් වෙලා තමන්ට දන්නේ නැහැ කවුද ඉන්නේ කියලා දන්නේ නැහැ. අපි කියනෝනේ ඒක චුතිසිත හරි වටිනවයි කියලා වැදගත් කියලා නේද? හැම දෙයකටම වඩා මරණාසන්න මොහොතේදී ඇති වෙන සිතිවිල්ල. කෙනෙක්ට මෛත්‍රී භාවනාව ප්‍රගුණ කරොත් නොමුලාව කලෝරිය කිරීම. ඒ කියන්නේ සිහි විකල් නොවි කලෝරිය කර මනස සිහියෙන් යුක්තව කෙනෙක්ට නියන්න පුළුවන්. උදාහරණ හැටියට ඕනතරම් අපේ දන්න සමාජෙත් ඉන්නවා. පරණ ඕනතරම් කතාවක් තියෙනවා අපිට. ඊට අනාගාමි මාර්ගඵලත්වයටපත් වුණා නැත්නම් බ්‍රහ්ම ලෝකෝපගෝ හෝති. කවුද දවසක් දුර්ගම රජතුමාටත් කතාවක් මෙතෙන්දී සිහිපත් කරන මේ ආනිසංසය ගැන. හේතුව තමයි මේ රජතුමා කියනවානේ මේ පොඩ්ඩක් ඉන්නේ කියලා කියනවා මේ අන්තිම මොහොතේදී මරණාසන්න මොහොතේදී රජතුමා රුවන්වැලි සෑය ළඟට ගිහිල්ලා තමන්ගේ සහෝදරය ඇතුළු පිරිවරත් සමගින් ගියාට පස්සේ මට දකින්න ආසයි කියලා මහා සෑය. ඉතින් කතාව හැමෝම අහලා තියෙනවා. ටික වෙලාවක් අතින් කියනවා මෙන්න මෙහෙමයි නවත්තන. අනිත් අය හිතන්නේ මේ කල්පනාව අඩු වෙලා මොකද්ද විකාරයෙන් අතපය හසුරවනවා ඇති මෙහෙම දේවල් කරනවා ඇති කියලා. ඒක රජතුමා අවබෝධයෙන් යුක්තව කරලා තියෙන්නේ. ඊටත් පස්සේ තවත් ඉන්නවා මේ බිම්බිසාර රජතුමා අනේ පිණිසිටුතුමාත් ඒ විදිහමයි තමන්ගේ දියණියන්ට කතාබස් කරපු තවත් විදිහ අවස්ථාවක් කියනවා මේ තමන්ගේ දුව සොමනාව දවසක් කතා කරනවා මලනුවණි කියලා. ඒ කියන්නේ වේලාසනම රජතුමාගේ දුව මරණයට පත් වෙනවා. මැරෙන්න කලින් මලනුවණි කියලා කියන මේ තාත්තට මලනුවණි කියලා කියන්නේ මල්ලි කියලා කියනවා. ඉතින් රජතුමා කල්පනා කරනවා මේ ඇයි මේ මරණයි කියලා දන්න මරණාසන්න මොහොතේදී දුව මේ විදිහට කතා කළේ ඇයි සිහිය විකල් වෙලාද ඇයි මරණයට පත් උනේ කියලා. බුදුහාඳුරෝ කියනවා නෑ ඇය හොඳ සිහියෙන් යුක්තව හිටියේ. රජතුමා සෝවාන් මාර්ගඵලත්වයට පත් වුණාට දියණිය සකෘදාගාමි මාර්ගඵලත්වයට පත් වෙලා ඒ විදිහට තමයි ඇය ආමන්ත්‍රණය කරලා තියෙන. තාත්තා කියනකට වැඩිය අර බාල ස්වභාවයෙන් කියන අදහසින් තමයි කතා කරලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒක වැරදීමක් නෙවෙයි. අවබෝධයෙන් යුක්තවයි කතා කළේ කියලා.
Then somehow I felt very and sort of drip a little bit of tears. What's going on? I just sort of that really interesting for me. It's not that I feel sad, but I feel wow. What is that? Like, is it? I don't know. And I mean, like, even sometimes when I see the sunrise, whoa, it's kind of the same feeling. Is that a good thing? I don't know.
Yes, I would say that's a beautiful thing. That's a very good thing. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dacher Keltner. He just wrote a book about awe, like being in awe, like the benefits of being in awe. And he's been spending a lot of time studying that exactly what you're saying, that awe feeling. Like when the sun is setting or when something very beautiful, majestic is happening. Like when you go to Tibet, you find this remote place and it's just very beautiful, awe-inspiring. Well, yeah, it's one of those, we in the Buddha's teaching, we try to develop very skillful and wholesome qualities of mind and heart. And loving kindness, sympathetic joy, compassion, and often it brings us closer to these moments. There can often be a sense of kind of a natural awe about everything. The more we practice, the more we just very at peace and very we need so little to be very happy. So we tap into these moments where it's just always there, kind of thing. So that's what I think.
Yeah. When mother delivers a child, it's very sensitive.
Yes. Yeah.
But somehow I kind of correlated when I see the sunrise and I just feel like baby. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know. I haven't got any babies, but just I kind of correlate them, but I'm not sure.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The birth of a new day. Yes. Is our baby. Uh-huh. Yes. Uh-huh. Yes. Yes. Definitely. Good. Very nice.
You can still see the sunrise in the city, but within your high-rise is still.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's quite different.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Definitely. Mm. That's why I actually spend a lot of time in nature. In Sri Lanka, I spend most of my time in a Aranya, a forest monastery that is in the Knuckles. So yes, so I can actually, from the monastery, I can walk to many beautiful, very beautiful natural places. We have many dialis, many waterfalls, and so I find it very conducive because it's, I just feel so uplifted by being in such beauty, and My practice is very good because it's very calming also. So for me, it's always been very important.
To become part of the nature.
Yes, yes.
Meditation.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Every time, because I teach a lot now. I teach a lot meditation kind of around the world. And when I come back from a big tour of many retreats and teachings, I come back. Last time I came to Sri Lanka to our Aranya, and then I thought I just wanted to be with, rocks, trees, like nothing else. Water is so simple. And the mind is like, like you don't have to pretend anything. You don't have to do anything. It's so simple.
It's like Dhamma, right?
Yes, Dhamma, the things as it is, yatha bhutam. Yes. Mm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like that's why I think these areas, big trees, they're very often, like when I feel very stressed or something, I'll just sit under the tree and it's like half an hour and then I will feel rejuvenated or something. And sometimes sunburn as well.
Yes, yes.
But it's nice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nature is very magical thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, definitely.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
Maybe twice.
Yes.
So, I mean, my little understanding is that what are the that someone say being, brought up in Sri Lanka, it's very common for us to be people being worship or line conversation in a very simplistic way. What I gather is, at least from Sri Lankan, anything to say, maybe Sri Lankan biasness, it's very mindful, all of the mind. But when you touch on the heart feeling, like the energy, when you do mind, it's now energizing through the heart. You just like something is not going in there. It's more like, if I were to say, to think of a school, if you're trying to discipline a child with a thing versus encouragement or love, it's like the different, because the other one is more like maybe the fear or the wanting, because you lack substance and like a white, whereas you can connect. I've seen it in different very hard focus. But maybe just only hard focus doesn't work, then you get involved in emotion, blah, blah, blah. So you probably need control. Can you little bit elaborate, because you really went to the hard part, and I resonated from some of the other places I have, and it's really, if you really touch that, it becomes really powerful, and if you can connect it with mind control, you can get somewhere. Maybe, could you just emphasize a little bit how the pathway and like, if you understand what I'm asking.
Of course, yes. So I think, I think the Buddha's teaching is so beautiful and so like it's so perfect in so many ways because there's a lot of clues in the suttas, in the early discourses, his teachings, that he would actually give loving kindness and compassion, the 4 Brahma Viharas, as to start people with, because it makes a very, very wholesome base on which to practice. But there is more to that. There is not just, let's say, loving kindness and things like that. But for me, as soon as we understand the wisdom of the Buddha, the difference between kusala and akusala, like akusala dhamma and kusala dhamma, that's where all of the wisdom of the Buddha is. is that there are two kinds of states in the mind and in the heart. The mind and the heart are actually, when we learn how to work properly, they work together. And so there's no, it's not separate. It's not two different things. And so on one side we have, for example, akusala, the destructive or unbeneficial, unskillful, unwholesome states. Anger, jealousy, hatred, resentment, anxiety. These states are never going to help us. These states are not for our own good. We react in anger. We react in anxiety. We react in fear. It's not conscious. It doesn't have awareness in it. It's actually very muddy. And when we're angry, we're not taking decisions from a wise place. We're reacting. So it's spontaneous. Whereas, for example, the other side of anxiety, it would be calm, for example, like upekkha, or the other side of anger would be loving kindness, for example. Loving kindness, compassion, instead of or just sympathetic joy instead of jealousy, compassion instead of hatred. These states come with awareness. So when we understand that, when we start to understand that, then we start to understand the Buddha's wisdom. Loving kindness, Maitri, has awareness in it. So when we have loving kindness, there is awareness. It has to be. It's biological even. When a mother loves her child, cares for her child, she's aware. She's aware of her child, because children will ask for all of your awareness. You're probably aware of that. So you can't leave a child just being, doing whatever they like unsupervised. You have to look, because they don't have that mindfulness. The mother has, the parents have the mindfulness for their children. And so it's even inbuilt in our biology that loving kindness is a state that comes with awareness. And it's calming. Loving kindness is calming. It's clearing the mind. The mind becomes clear and still the more we develop it. It's the same thing for sympathetic joy. When we learn to celebrate other people's happiness and goodness and goodwill, it's a very clear, calm state to be in. We're basically resonating with them. It's like you want to tune a guitar or something. You have a tuning fork and you bang the tuning fork and you bring it close to the same string as it is tuned, and that string would also start to vibrate. And so it's the same thing. These qualities of love, compassion, sympathetic joy, they're very resonant qualities. And they're very calm, very wholesome, they're nurturing. And so when we really do the work properly, so loving kindness is not about excitement. So that's where the other flip side is also. It's not about burning love or like passionate love. Or romantic love. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about universal love or unconditional love, and just that word unconditional makes it very, there cannot be a difference between you and you and you and you and me. There is only just this universal love. Everybody's equal on that thing. So, and that is a very level-headed feeling. So it's not emotional. And the same thing is for compassion, the same thing for sympathetic joy, same thing for equanimity, calm. And so that's why we start in our meditation practice, we start with loving kindness, but we also have, in fact, the most important part of it is not the loving kindness itself, is actually the 6 R's. It's funny because every time people think that we practice a loving kindness practice, like a metta practice only, but actually it's not. We start with loving kindness, then it changes and it progresses through the meditation because of the 6 R's. And the pasambayang kaya sankarang, the relaxed step that is actually taken from the anapanasati, that my teacher took from the anapanasati, relaxing the body, we see that as the most important step, actually. Because there is one sutta the Buddha says in the Sankadhamma Sutta. He says, when somebody has loving kindness in their heart, and it's for all living beings, unconditioned, in that mind, there cannot be any unwholesome states at that time. At that time, there is only loving kindness, like a conch blower would sound his conch to the directions. And then his sound would be known everywhere. And it's the same thing with loving kindness. When loving kindness is there, only loving kindness is there. It cannot be there cannot be anger. Otherwise, it's not loving kindness. Sorry. Or there cannot be anxiety, or there cannot be, like there's a place where, it can be fuzzy, but if loving kindness is there and it's established, then there is no unwholesome state. And from there, we use that understanding, and whenever the mind becomes distracted, we relax. We relax and we let go. And after a while, the mind starts to change and it rewires itself. Any distractions will be seen properly, like we were talking about vidarshana earlier, vipassana meditation. We actually teach quite a bit on the nature of these mental states, what they are. Usually, when the mind is distracted, it's actually just restlessness. It's not, we believe the story, we believe the content in the mind. Like the mind will start to think about your next trip somewhere, or what happened at work. Somebody said something and you reacted, and I should have said that, and I should have said this and that. And then at some point, the mind really believes that storyline. But in the end, that's just restlessness. It's not the story. The story doesn't matter. It's just a habit of the mind. And so we explain that quite a lot on the retreat. And so we also practice vipassana. So this is what we practice, is samatha and vipassana together. So that this tranquility that we practice in the meditation, in the evening dharma deshanas, in the talks in the evening, we also explain more about the mind, the nature of wholesome kusala and akusala dhammas, how to see them, and how to make more of the kusala dhammas, the wholesome states, and how to abandon continuously the unwholesome ones, how to see the distractions, what's arising. Well, maybe that's fear. Maybe it's fear about something that somebody did to you. You could believe that story in your mind, or you could just see it, oh, this is just fear. And when you see it like that, it loses a lot of its power. And it's like, okay, you stop taking it personal, and so it's also anatta. And you stop reacting to that. You see it's just fear. And then you also can let it go easily. And so I think in the end, it's not just about the heart path, even though I think it's obviously beautiful if I called my organization like that, Heart Dhamma. But there is more. The path of the heart is not about emotionality. It's actually about understanding really what the Buddha was teaching, kusala and akusala dhamma. And I think that a mind that is purified in the end, that has let go of all of its nivaranas, of all of its kileshas, actually the mind is so clear, it's unimpeded, and the heart is also open, because these qualities that we cultivate of anumodana, for example, rejoicing, either in the merits, punya anumodana, either in mudita, rejoicing with others, loving kindness, compassion. These states become very natural because they're completely blameless, they're beneficial, and the mind, it's easy for the mind to be in these states. So as we progress, the mind and the heart become the same, really. So that's my understanding of this path. Because an arahant, for example, cannot react with anger. It's impossible. They cannot have anger. They can only have metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha. Those states are still, the Brahma Viharas are still there in even arahants. In fact, quite a lot more, because that's only what they can experience. So obviously they have more of that. But of course, their mind is very clear, very, very clear and calm, undisturbed. So,
do you have any advice on emotions playing a part in this whole thing? That's completely putting all out of the track, right?
Yes,
Especially people who, you what you just say in a layman's language.
Yes.
Good, big-hearted people. They
yes.
normally, rather than generally, as a general division, you have people who are more, I guess, maybe mind or logic driven, who may not have so much heart, but there are people who are very big-hearted.
Yes.
Right? But thinking, I have my observation, it's very tangled up with emotion.
Yes.
Heart could be moment emotion is touched, heart is down the drain. The person complete. Like this is my observation, right? And I think a little bit of advice on that front will be very helpful.
Yes. So what we teach and practice, this correlates to, for me, what's really helpful is awareness of the body. And so part of what we try to transfer in this practice is to make people more aware of how these emotional states feel in the body. Because once we get emotional, if it becomes mental, it becomes a mental thing, and we become lost in the mind, in the emotions and all of that. But if we go back to the body, we take a break, okay, and just take a moment and feel, how does that feel inside of you? That emotional, whatever it is. It could be excitement, it could be reaction with anger, or whatever it is. Then just take a moment and feel how that feels in your body. A lot of the time there's going to be a kind of a burning sensation in the gut, or something like that, in the heart even. Like, it's really kind of taking over, like overwhelming. There's going to be every time, for sure, there's going to be tension. There's going to be tension in the body somewhere, most likely in the neck, in the head, shoulders, gut even. And the more you you develop this communication, this language with your body, the more you will start to be aware of how it reacts or how it feels when these emotional states happen. And this kind of gives your mind an anchor to be like, oh, this is actually dukkha. This is actually unpleasant. Like that reaction is painful in itself. And if you start to see it like that, then you can actually let it go. Yeah, that's where the let go, it completely, that's where it's found, and that's where it's applied. When you see these emotional states as tension, tightness, some kind of pain, like burning in your body, you're not likely to be wanting them to continue. Because as soon as we see something is causing us problems or pain, we don't engage anymore. So that's the wisdom of the Buddha as well.
That's a very good point, because I think, at least from my limited experience, we try to fight it within the mind itself. It doesn't work.
Yes.
Because you try to go it, actually aggregate it. That's a very good point. You see it in the body, and then you separate that. And
Yes. We need to leave the realm of the mind, because to just try to fix the mind with the mind is very difficult. We're just playing with clouds, basically. But when you go back to your body, you feel the dukkha of that emotional state. It's very easy. Very easy to be like, nope, I'm not touching that. Okay, it's time to calm down now. So yeah, that's why in the 6 R's that I talked about, the relaxed step, we always go check in with your body, feel the tension. It will always be there. Every time the mind is restless, there will be tension. You can be sure of that. Nama Rupa, they come together. Very good question.
When is your reading? Coming weekend?
Next weekend. Yes, you can. Yes, there is still, I think, a few spots left. Yeah, 2-3 spots left. It's all on the website if you want more information. And
Your website?
yes, the bookmark. Yes. If you click retreats, then you'll have the Australia Blue Mountains next weekend starting. So let's see, did you want to say something? Okay. Oh. Oh, good. Very good.
But you have to be aware that of course it's causing some sort of attention.
Yes.
Some sort of in simple language, heartache or something.
Yes.
And then the awareness followed by that sort of a recognition that this is doing this to me.
Yes.
So I just have to get away from it, let it go.
Yes. Yes. In many of the suttas, actually, the Buddha says something like, as soon as I knew that this was dukkha, I let it go. Because it's just, it's so easy. When you see something is causing problems to you, then it's actually easy to let it go.
You explained just now, is it prime?
Raya? Oh, Kaya Nupassana. Oh, yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah. This is kind of like a little bit our version of it. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, the more we delve down this path, the more awareness of the body is just, we're becoming very close to the body, because not in a forced way, but just in a sensitive way. Yeah, we've become very sensitive to any kind of jerk or, you know, how we react to things is we'll feel it right away in our body. So, and I think that's very close to what the Buddha was saying in his teachings.
But this is that sensation,
yes.
that connection to what you really feel within your body becomes more and more with the practice of your sort of having some time for yourself as meditation
Yes.
or the Anapanasati ordinary time. The more you practice, you get it sort of
Yeah. Yes, yes, definitely.
There are particular one, like from my observation, all these great meditations, it seems this the exact point you're talking about, the awareness, raising awareness. That seems to be the thing that's getting lost in this whole, like the whole concept of us we are trying to do. May not be if you're a practitioner like you who's doing it, but thinking of a normal life person. You know, the thing that flips first is this, or even if you think of emotion getting best of you, the hardest part I have to now, sometimes I lose it really big time. So I know from my experience, you know, the thing that you can't get is that point that awareness is getting lost. If you can catch that, I think you are miles away. Is there any particular meditation or anything that you should focus on to nail that point? Or is it Anapanas? I don't know. What is your advice?
So when the awareness is gone, for us, the way that we teach and practice, we say it's basically, it's no point trying to catch that. It's just that basically at that point it has gone too far. So whenever you'll catch yourself, then you come back to your body, you feel your body, you go, okay, maybe, yeah, it's good time that I calm down. And then you just calm down all the boiling and the sensations and all of that. The more you practice, the more you will become aware of that. And so that's where you catch it. But if you try to catch it yourself, then it's kind of backwards, because it's not the way to do it. The way to do it is to cultivate these aware states. And then when it's gone, then it's okay. Forgive yourself. No problem. It's all good. Yeah.
That's a good point. So instead of trying to control and stop it, as like if you repeatedly do it, maybe that feels like riding a bicycle or something.
Yes, exactly. And that's actually, it's not to catch it, but it's to apply the 6 R's at that point. Yes. That's when we tell people that's exactly when you want to use the 6 R's. And as every time you do that, then you build in that new operating system. So more and more you will operate from that place of, oh yeah, I'm reacting, there's tension, I'm relaxing, let that go. Smile, it's okay, no problem. Relax, come back to a wholesome state. And that can be used with metta, compassion, that can be used with mudita, it can be used with equanimity. It's very versatile. We're getting some good questions. Maybe Swam Nancy can.
Example for the when you busy body of life, for example, working environment and stress of life and home, right? How to meditation, it's okay, right? But while you have different methods of meditation, compared to Buddha says, Vipassana, and for the Dhamma, creating the different concept kind of thing. Compared to over meditation concept, what's the benefits of easiest way to compare other thing, other meditation method, for what you recommend for your. Because all are busy, and we had to encourage all new people or stress of life,
Uh-huh.
working environment.
Uh-huh.
Because they was in India, they said, oh, we don't have time to work out on that.
Mm-hmm.
People say meditation is always you have to set up a different concept or different atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many things, and there's even just perceptions that you can develop, you know, for calming the mind in some situations. But I would say that you know, the Buddha's teaching is very big, it's very vast. But I see one big kind of road in the middle of it that is kind of seems like it was the path that he would teach the most. And then around that, there's lots of other things that, you know, float around. It's like a big tree, basically. And what I like to, I see this, the Rahulovada Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya, I think it's Rahulovada Sutta. When Rahula goes for Pindapat with the Buddha, and he has this, oh, it's my father, he's thinking it's my dad, and he's kind of getting proud of that. And the Buddha turns around and he says these five, the Panchupadana Khandhas is anatta, and you know, you should remember that this rupa is not me, not mine, and all that. And then Rahula goes under a tree and he sits there. And Sariputta says, you should practice Anapanasati. But Rahula doesn't know Anapanasati. And so he goes back to the Buddha in the evening and asks for the Anapanasati instruction. And the Buddha says, well, first, Rahula, you should train to see, he says the four elements, basically. But I think that's just a little bit teaching on how to see properly, like a little bit of wisdom for him. But after that, he says, okay, now you should train with practicing metta bhavana. Now you should train karuna. Then now you should train mudita. Then now you should train upekkha. And then after the 4 Brahma Viharas, he says, now you should train with the patikulya, or is it the unattractiveness? Patikulya, patikulya. I can't remember. Yes. Asubha, yes. Asubha practice. And then you should do a little bit of Asubha practice. And then you should train, if I'm not wrong, to see impermanence, like anicca. Or is it that? And then he says at the end, and then you should train with Anapanasati. So for me, that's where I understand. You know, Rahula is a very young member of the Sangha at that point, and he's even asking the Buddha for Anapanasati, and the Buddha says, first you should do this. First, you should train in metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha. Because he knows that this is very, very wholesome. And if you train in that first, then your whole life will become very different. Your interactions, you will have, your whole life will become very wholesome and lots of punya also. And you know, sometimes it's also good to remember that meditation is not just, you know, about sitting practice. It's changing our hearts and behavior to a better, more kind, more calm, more peaceful. Yes. Yes, exactly. 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 Yes. 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 And the thing is that with these 4 Brahma Viharas, of course, meditation is very high punya. But there's also a kind of worldly punya that we need too. You know, we need good relationships with people. We also, so see, that's why it's all working together. When we're loving and kind, when we're kind to other people, it comes back to us. So that's the thing, you know, why we take the Panchasilas, you know, not to harm, not to steal, not to lie, not to abuse. Well, that's because it's also protecting us. We're together in this. We're not, you know, separate. So when we learn the Brahma Viharas, it's actually it's helping us a lot, because that's like the most basic thing that we should all learn. Basically, that's really. And once you have that, once you're skilled and well trained in that, then you can maybe go a little deeper, because you actually have the right place to start. You're not going to be doing it for selfish reasons, for example. You're not going to be doing it for, you know, pride or anything like that. Meditation is not for pride. It's actually the complete opposite. So when you have that foundation, then you're sure that you're going in the right direction. So that's why I like that sutta particularly, because the Buddha is very clear. Rahula is his son. He's a very young member of the Sangha. He's just starting. And so it's very likely that it's probably what he said to everybody that was starting, or very close to that. And so Anapanasati is a beautiful teaching. And then I think it's for people who have already trained in very, very wholesome states before. And so there's all these different methods and approaches. Now you know what I think, where the Brahma Viharas fit and where Anapanasati fit. And I think at the level of Anapanasati, there's also the Anicca Sanya. There's also further practices like Anatta, like developing that Vipassana, that Vidarshana. But this is like a little bit by little bit, it adds up. It's not necessarily a one-way meditation path. And Patikula, Apatikula, Asubha practice. For me, you know, there are instances in the suttas where, you know, it started to be a very big practice in the Sangha, and some monks actually became very disgusted with their bodies, and it created problems. So I always say, you know, be careful, you know, be gentle with these practices. It's not about, you know, these are very specific practices that you can use for specific situations. But if you just do that, then it could be, it might not lead you in the right place. So we need to know where these practices are best applied. So the repulsiveness practices, it's, for me, I see only as, you know, when you encounter very intense situations of very strong desires, that is maybe like very unwholesome, for example, very strong, like a very bad emotional relationship or something like that. You could actually see the body in its different parts and break it apart, so that you actually kind of cool your mind in regards to the body. But, you know, it's effective and it's very powerful, like Maranasati, like remembering sometime. But I think these practices are so powerful, they're so potent, you don't need to do them a lot. It's like somebody was telling me earlier, a friend of mine was telling me when they landed the other day in Sydney, there was a big thunderstorm and the plane was going like this and was going to land. And they were all really scared in the plane, and they were thinking like we're all gonna die. And that's a kind of Maranasati. And it was very powerful. He saw his mind becoming very clear. But the thing is, you know, if you just think of these things all the time, then the mind also can become depressed or heavy. So it's good to do these lightly, you know. So that's just my personal advice. Yeah.
Very good, because when you don't know, you don't know. No, you can get carried away knowing a little bit.
Yes.
Very dangerous.
Yes.
One question: what's the difference between Dhamma Vijaya in your approach? Why to me they all this? Why is it? What is the difference?
Yes. So Nancy, would you like to answer?
Yeah.
Something?
No, you precise.
Okay. So there's a couple of ways we can explain this. Well, in my opinion, right now. So one of them is that metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha. So loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy or joy, and equanimity or calm. They can be seen as a gradual progression. They can be seen as from the coarser, the more intense, to the least intense. So in terms of intensity. So loving kindness is a very, you know, it's a very kind of forward energy. You know, it's a very, I love everybody unconditionally. It's just out there, like the sun, the big blast of sunshine. I think it's Bhikkhu Analayo has this analogy. It's like the high noon sun. And then compassion is a little bit different. The sun is there, the light of the sun is there, but the sun is kind of going in the darkness. And it's like the sunset, basically. It's the difference between loving kindness and compassion, metta and karuna, is that karuna has a bit of suffering in it, or a bit of troublesomeness or problem or pain, either for yourself or for somebody else. So that it doesn't matter. You can have compassion for yourself and you can have compassion for somebody else. But the slight difference, the tweak there is that there is dukkha. There is some kind of problem, an issue, pain, or whatever it is. And then the feeling gets just transformed a little bit and it becomes more like a glow. It's a bit more distant. It's also the ability for someone to be there for someone, be an anchor with what they have, with their suffering, and be there for them without becoming lost with them. And so it's that compassion, is that kind of radiance there. So like the sun going down. And mudita is like the rising sun. It's like, like I rejoice with you. I rejoice with whatever is happening that is good, uplifting. But the thing here is that it's loving kindness is strong. It's all directions, and it's very kind of shiny. Compassion is more detached, though, because there is that element of, yeah, I'm here, and I'm here for you, but there is that suffering, so it's like there's a bit of more distance. And then mudita is very simple. It's actually very, very simple. It's much simpler than loving kindness or compassion. It's just very light. It's doesn't need anything. It's very light. It's not, so in there is a way we can practice these states. In our meditation, we base ourselves on the sutta called the Metta Sahagata Sutta in the Samyutta Nikaya. And the Buddha explains each of the Brahma Viharas as where they end, where the depth to which you can practice them. So metta is like the fourth jhana. Mudita is the fifth jhana, or the plane of endless space. And I know karuna, and then mudita is endless consciousness. That is what he says. And the reason why it goes deeper is because it's very light. It's just joy, basically. And joy is very, it's not as involved with things. So it's very light. And then he says the limit of upekkha is the plane of nothingness. So akinchayadana. And the thing with upekkha is that this is not an upekkha that we can force. This is not an upekkha that, like, for example, I just force myself to be equanimous when somebody says something hurtful to me. This is not just that upekkha. Upekkha is also a very refined, cultivated mental state, which is the result of the 7 sambhojangas. So when we practice, there is sati, there is awareness, there is Dhamma Vijaya, where we investigate, okay, this is, mind got distracted, you let it go back to the wholesome. This is Dhamma Vijaya. Dhamma Vijaya, and then there is virya. You do that all the time. You do that continuously. This is what we do on retreat. Then joy arises, piti. Because of course, when you let go of unwholesome states, heavier states, you cultivate wholesome states, the mind becomes joyful. It's, of course, that piti arises naturally. Then there is passaddhi. Everything calms down. And then the mind becomes collected, samadhi. And that samadhi culminates into upekkha. Upekkha is a steadiness of mind that is cultivated, that is mature, that has been developed. So it's not just like upekkha, like
like related to Nirodha.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So it's not like being a tank, upekkha. It's also a very refined and mature state of mind. So that's why it's also, this kind of upekkha is actually very, very stable and very fine. And so in that way, they are a bit in an order, from coarser to subtler. We can also develop each of them individually, that's for sure. That's not a problem too. But the Buddha, tended to always tell them in that order. And yeah, well, I touched upon already their limits. So also, in a sense, they could be cultivated, each one for what they are, but they also can be cultivated exactly in that order, and they fade away. And there's a point in the practice where the mind is so still and clear that even just radiating equanimity, upekkha, is too much. It's just an action that the mind wants to let go. And then the mind becomes even clearer. But this process can also be experienced in a gradual way. So that's the difference. I'm sure there is lots more to say about all the differences, but yes.
Your explanation is very beautiful and simple and perfect. අපිත් කියන්නේ කිව්වොත් මොකක් හරි තවත් උදාහරණයක් තුනනේ කියන්නේ. හඳුරු දෙනවා කිව්වොත් මම වෙන තවත් උදාහරණ බ්‍රහ්ම විහරණ ගත්තොත් 4 ආදරය කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියන එක මම ජගත් මහත්තයා දරුවෝ තමන්ගේ පුතාලා දෙන්න තුන් දෙනාටම ආදරේ. ඒ වගේම ඒ ආදරේ තවත් කෙනෙක්ටත් දක්වන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඒ වගේම බැරි වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි ඒ හා සමානව ආදරයක්. අපි මෛත්‍රී කරන්නෙත් ඒකනේ. මම ඉස්සෙල්ලාම මට ආදරය කරන්න. මමත් එක්කම අනිත් අයත් හැමෝම හොඳින් ඉන්න ඕනේ. මගේ දරුවෝ වගේම මගේ අම්මා තාත්තා වගේම අනිත් අයත් හොඳින් ඉන්න ඕනේ කියන එක තමයි කියන්නේ. කරුණාව හඳුරු කියපු එකත් එක්ක හරි අපිට කොවිඩ් ආව කාලයක් නේ. මුළු ලෝකෙම නතර වෙලා තිබුණ අවුරුදු 3කට විතර. මිනිස්සු ලංකාවේ ටික වැඩි වෙනවා, ඉන්දියාවේ වැඩි වෙනකොට අපි දවස ගානේ කවුන්ට් කරන්නේ මේ රටේ කොහොමද මැරුණේ කොච්චරද කියලා. අපි කවදාකවත් හැබැයි දැකලා නැහැ. හැබැයි ඒගොල්ලෝ දුක් වෙනවා අපි දකිනවා. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ දුක දැකලා අපේ හිත කම්පා වෙනවා නේ. තවත් කෙනෙක්ගේ දුක දැකලා පර දුක්ඛේ සති සාධෝනං හදේ කංපනං කරෝති इति කරුණ තවත් කෙනෙක්ගේ දුකේදී අපේ හිත කම්පාවටපත් කරගන්න පුළුවන් නම් අන්න ඒකට කියනවා බුදුහාම කරුණාව කියලා. මුදිතාවත් ඒකයි. මට තියෙනවා හොඳ වාහනයක්. අපි හිතමු බ්‍රෑන්ඩ් නිව් වාහනයක් තියෙනවා. අල්ලපු ගෙදරට කෙනාට මගේ යාළුවෙටයි තවත් කෙනෙක්ටයි ඒ වගේම ලස්සන වාහනයක් ගත්තොත් මට එයාත් එක්ක ඊර්ෂ්‍යාවක් ඇති වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් මම සතුටු වෙනවනම් එයාත් මට වගේ මෙයාත් ලස්සන ගියක් හැදුවා ලස්සන වාහනයක් තියෙනවා තවත් කෙනෙක්ගේ දියුණුව දැකලා සතුටු වෙන එක. උපේක්ෂාවත් එහෙමයි. කිසිම මේ අඳුරු කිව්වගේ මේ හෙල්ලෙන්නේ නැතුව ඉන්නව නෙමෙයි. ඒ හැම දෙයක්ම දැකලා සතුටයි දුකයි ඒ දෙකේදීම බිඳ දරා ගන්න පුළුවන් හැකියාව තියෙනවා. good. Anything? Well, hurry. Okay, okay. So we can yes. Sappe buddha balappatta pacchekaanancayang balang arahantananca tejena rakkang bandami sappaso sappe deva sappe bhuta sappe sattha ca kevala sappe bhadrani passanto ma kanchi papa magama dukkhappatthā ca nidukkha bhayappatthā ca nibhaya සෝකප්පත්තා ච නිස්සෝකා හොන්තු සබ්බේති පානිනෝ. අද ඊයේත් අදත් මේ දවස් දෙක තුළදී අපේ විහාරස්ථානයේට ධම්මවිජය විහාරස්ථානයේට වැඩම කරලා අපේ ගරු කටයුතු ආනන්ද හඳුරෝ ඊයේත් රිට්‍රීට් එකක් පැවැත්තුවා. ඒ වගේම අද දවසේදීත් මේ සිල් සමාදන් වුණු හැම දිනාටමත් අනුශාසනා කළා. අපේ ගෞරවනීය ආනන්ද හඳුරන්ටත් අපි පින් අනුමෝදන් කරනවා. උන්වහන්සේ කෙරෙන සියලුම ශාසනික කටයුතු තව තවත් මෙවැනි ධර්මයෙන් බොහෝ දෙනෙක්ට ධර්මාවාද ලබා දෙන්නට දේශනාදී සිද්ධ කරන්නට උන්වහන්සේට තෙරුවන්ගේ ආශිර්වාදයෙන්ොත් නිදුක් භව නිරෝගී සම්පන්නිය චිරජීවනයේම සැලසේවා කියමින් කවුරුත් සාදෝ කියා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා. ඒ වගේම අද දවසේදී සියලුම කටයුතු පස්සේ කළා. තමන්ගේ නිවෙස් වල වැඩ හැම දෙයක්ම පස්සේ කළා. අද දවසේ මේ සීල භාවනා වැඩසටහනට සම්බන්ධ වුණු පින්වත් හැම දෙනාටමත් උදෑසන සිට දානීය පූජා කළ වතාවත් සිද්ධ කළ ඒ පින්වත් හැම දෙනාටමත් සහ සම්බන්ධ වුණු සියලු දෙනාටම තුනුරුවන්ගේ සරණින් නිදුක් භව නිරෝගී සම්පන්නිය චිරජීවනයේ සැලසේවා. හැම දෙනාගේම ජීවිතවලට මේ සිද්ධ කළ සීල භාවනා කුසලානිසංසයනොත් ආශිර්වාදයක්ම වේවා. නිවන් සෝ පිණිසමත් හේතු වේවා කියමින් සාදු කියා ප්‍රාර්ථනා. හැමත තෙරුවන් සරණයි.